Right, guys, you should be able to hear me. Can I just get a confirmation that you can? Let's see. Okay. It's this weird camera moving shit. Hold on. Whoa. Okay. All right. All right. Cool. What's up, guys? Um. Yeah, shit's about to get crazy. How's everyone doing? Preparing some tea as we get ready to embark on this bullishness. Did you guys watch the podcast that I did with Luke Broyles on his YouTube channel? Did you guys watch it? What did you think? It's always quite interesting how many different types of comments I get. His name is Luke Broyles. Young kid doing amazing work, I think, in the in Bitcoin. You know. Thank you. Yeah. I don't think I roasted him. Come on, I think Luke's a great guy. I don't think I roasted him at all. Yeah, I think he's a good guy. I think he's a young man actually trying to add some value in the space, and I think he's doing a good job. He certainly analyzes data really well, and I think he's an overall value add. Definitely the happy hippies weren't happy. Reading the comments underneath that, I thought he was gonna get scared by that, but he didn't. I actually spent time recording a podcast with someone recently who chose not to put it out because of the fear of the personality difference, which was quite entertaining. It's quite entertaining. So yeah, no, I don't have no fancy gimbal, Gary. I don't have a fancy gimbal. This thing's resting on top of my laptop. To me, if I can't set this up in 3 seconds, I don't want to do it. So either you got to put up with the camera, or you can go watch someone else's podcast. I apologize, but that's just how it is. Um, yeah, different perspective, the same point, accumulate Bitcoin. Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point. There is no other value in anything that we're saying, right? Anything anyone is saying is get to one Bitcoin. I guess I'm the only one that's, ramming my foot down people's throats to get to one Bitcoin. Everyone else is trying to educate. The one thing I'm openly saying, I don't want to be in 2038. 2028 even. I don't want to be known as the person who had the YouTube channel that had, the most interesting information when it comes to, about Bitcoin and all the technical details. There's other people that are much better at that than me, right? I don't want to be known. I don't want any of my content to be, that's not the priority for me. The priority for me is in 2028, I want an army of people that are there and have gotten to one Bitcoin because of any single thing that I've said that added to further clarity that they needed to get to in order to get to that point, or are still trying. And that's extremely important. Getting to one Bitcoin is extremely important. In 2028, I don't really care about my YouTube channel being known as like, the most fundamental, groundbreaking, content on the technicalities of Bitcoin. I have no care in the world about that. There's a lot of people who have a net worth of $5,000 who know a lot more about the technicalities of Bitcoin than I ever want to know. So that's not what this is about. And the same thing, right? Like I said, I always say it. I do YouTube videos in the same way that I'm having a conversation with the people that I care about, right? My parents, for example. It's understanding that we got to get to one Bitcoin first, and then the conversation can start. Until you get to one Bitcoin, the conversation hasn't even started yet. Now, there's going to be people that disagree with that, and I understand that. I empathize with that. But the reality of the land is the reality of the land. Just did my $25 DCA for the week. Hey, you're overperforming. You're overperforming. I thought you were part of the $10 a month DCA gang. Melvin said it convinced his friend to buy the Bitcoin Standard last week. Excellent. Right, this person's going on mute. Hold on. What do you think of SHIB? All right. Block user on YouTube. There you go. Finality. I like the finality of that. Block them on YouTube. No more comments. Be gone, shitcoiner. There we go. Right. So, yeah, you know, I think there's a lot of good work happening here in the Bitcoin space, and I think the message is getting out. You know, yesterday that interview went up, and within a day we're at 13,000 views. Within one day, less than 24 hours, 13,000 views on his channel, right? Which is amazing. So, you know, and I think that's another one. Hold on. Vegas Inu token. Bye-bye. Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting right now. There's a lot of, you know, people are agitated. I feel that people are agitated by my delivery sometimes. Some people are certainly scared by that. And so, just like the situation happened, and this person, completely respectfully, by the way, messaged me and said, hey, listen, I don't feel comfortable about putting this podcast out. And I said, that's absolutely fine. It's not a problem. I wish that I could get that hour back. But besides that, it's completely fine. I completely understand when people are hesitant with the delivery. And then, you know, you see people like Luke, who is like a complete polar opposite to my personality, brings me on. It's one of the fastest viewed growing videos on his channel. So I'm very, very happy for Luke. I teach finance at a local college and managed to convince some of my students to buy Bitcoin. One of them put half of her net worth, under $1,000, into it. Amazing. Amazing, right? That's what it's about. Yeah, so guys, you know, as you guys know, these live streams are really about us just hanging out, answering questions, talking about what's going on. Is there anything that you guys want an opinion on? Any topic or any questions that you guys want an opinion on in terms of Bitcoin? I'm happy to sit here and shoot the shit with you guys. Thank you very much for your support. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, we're almost at 20,000 subscribers. Can you believe that shit? Can you believe that? Let me tell you right now where we're at. We are at 19,943 subscribers. Can you believe that? Right? Just to put that into perspective, how fast this army is growing. Hold on. How can I to see this bar chart. What the fuck? So in September, wait, I'm just gonna check on my phone. It's easier. Sorry guys, I don't know how this shit works. So in August is when we really sort of started. We were at 1,800 subscribers, and now we're at 19,947. It's unbelievable, right? And I'm sitting here with a webcam that's shaking. It's my phone, but I'm sitting here with a camera that's shaking, talking about how the actual market is going to receive Bitcoin when it does, and why it's important for people to get to one Bitcoin. I'm not here doing crazy, amazing interviews like a lot of these people are doing, right? This is amazing. I'm so grateful for every single person who is subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to subscribe. And we'll soon, I predict by tomorrow morning, we'll be at 20,000 subscribers. It's absolutely phenomenal. I can't even believe it. It's crazy. So, that's for you guys. I appreciate you. And hopefully we can create a bigger and bigger army of Holcoiners in the world. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean that anyone who doesn't have one Bitcoin is completely irrelevant to humanity. That's not what I'm saying. I would rather be the one that tells you that you're going to be irrelevant if you don't get to one Bitcoin, and then you get to 0.75 rather than being at 0.3. Get what I mean? And I know most of you get that. I know most of you get that. Matt said, how do I move my Bitcoin from Coinbase to a Trezor wallet without a bunch of extra fees? Can I set up a seed phrase on Coinbase? So you need to move your Bitcoin ideally off of the exchange. The cost of doing that is obviously higher, so you may, depending on right now, the fees are pretty high on the network. So you may find yourself having to wait so that you can accumulate a little bit and then move it off the exchange. Or use a different exchange. But right now the network is, the fuck is this? Jesus coin is a blessing. Here's a fucking blessing for you. Right, there you go. So yeah, you gotta do it, but it might take a little bit of time to accumulate to make it worthwhile, depending on how much you're accumulating. And you can do it at different times of the day, etc., etc. Denver Helmer, what's up, bro? Yeah, the channel's growing quite fast, but again, the guys at Denver Huddle said your channel's growing so fast, 10 times faster than Simply Bitcoin. Listen, Simply Bitcoin does an amazing job, right? I think the way they tell stories is absolutely amazing, and I think the work that they're doing, my mom also watches Simply Bitcoin because they do a really good job at their production and the way they tell stories to help people understand what's going on in the market. And repeatedly get messages from my mom and my dad about this video or that video from Simply Bitcoin, and I think that's fantastic. They've obviously got some sort of funding behind them, et cetera, and I think they're doing a good job. Every single person that's talking about Bitcoin is adding value to the Bitcoin consciousness, and I think that's extremely important. Lupe said, I hope I pronounced your name right, by the way, your delivery is what made my husband decide to buy it. You speak truth, and for people over 60, we need someone who breaks it down for us. That's my goal, right? That's really my goal. What's your view on using Cash App to accumulate? Frank, I don't use Cash App. I just never have. I never needed to. But again, any way that you can buy Bitcoin and then move it off of a centralized exchange is fine. I'm not going to be here and tell you, oh, you need to use this particular exchange because, they're the ones who are, the most pro Bitcoin. I think that's a bit retarded. So you got to use who you can to get the Bitcoin and then get it off. Like, I never really supported that. Like, oh, buy it from this particular exchange, even though they charge a small amount of fees, but then the spread, they kill you on the spread that you don't even see. You know, that's just marketing and market making. At the end of the day, for me, for you guys, this is the one thing that you need to do is just buy the Bitcoin in the way that you can. You got to buy the Bitcoin and keep it safe. That's really it. Highly recommend the book Bitcoin Hard Money You Can't Fuck With. Why Bitcoin will be the next global reserve currency. Yeah, absolutely. That's Jason Williams' book. That's an awesome book. Why is everyone want fucking British hollow bathrobes? You guys are crazy. Um, the luxury robe will come out during the bull market. This is the sat stacking robe, okay? And then once we get into the bull market, we'll bring out the Loro Piana robe. So it's how we do it. It's like we got the green candles right now. Okay, this is a good one. More info, multi-sig setup, and best practices advice. So as far as I think multi-signature is the single best way to store Bitcoin. Why do I think that? Because you will have 5 keys. So how Bitcoin obviously works is that, or just like any bank account, right? If you have a bank account with 5 signatories on it, you need a certain amount of signatories before any funds are moved from that bank account. In the same way, if you have a Bitcoin wallet with five signatures needed on there, 5 keys needed in order to move it, then you can say that, okay, at least 3 of these keys have to be present in order to move this Bitcoin, right? And then what you can do is obviously have jurisdictional arbitrage. You can have, third-party arbitrage. You can have, your own personal arbitrage, etc., etc. So, personally, I don't. I have a multi-sig a setup. It's set up through Casa, keys.casa. Again, do your own research before you use them, and I'm not affiliated with them in any sort of way. But I use Casa to set that up. And I don't have any keys on me or anywhere near me, right? I've set it up in a way that obviously Casa holds one of the keys. The other key is a mobile wallet that you have, and then there's 3 physical keys. All of my physical keys are in different jurisdictions on the locking key and on the safeguard. I would need to fly to a place, to 3 places in fact, if I ever wanted to sign with any one of those keys. I'd have to get there, I'd have to go through security, I'd have to, you know what I mean? So even if, let's say I'm forced by someone to sign one key, I gotta fly to that place to sign the key, then I gotta fly to another place, and then I gotta fly to another place in order to do that. So it just reduces by the way, it's of course homesteading in Florida. It's gotta be Venezuelan arepas, come on. Anyway, so I gotta fly to 3 different places in order to move that. If I don't wanna do that, then I can use the key that Casa holds, in which case they'll train you on the phone with certain things that, you'll have to do a video phone call with them to get them to sign the transaction. They will train you in a way that if you are under duress, you can set up something that you will say on the video call, and if you say that thing, then they'll no longer sign that transaction. So it looks like a completely normal phone call. But if you say a particular word or a particular phrase, they will no longer say, they will no longer sign that transaction with their key. And then, of course, you have that one mobile key, right? I don't even have that on me, but you can if you wish to. So, that I think is the best approach. It's definitely, there's more cost attached to that than doing, Bitcoin in itself has no cost of carry. Of course, signing up to Casa and having their team manage everything, I have the cost of carry based on their fee. Santiago, I think I have the $1,800, something like 15 or $1,800 a year subscription. So, yeah, it's. I think that's the best way to do a multi-sig setup. But again, all of this depends on how much Bitcoin you own and how anal you want to be about the security of it, and to what extent you want to protect it, right? I personally think you can, of course, set up a multi-sig setup by yourself, but my my position is at a point where I'm not looking to tap into my position for a number of years, if ever. And at some point, I'm going to want to do a legacy transfer, et cetera, et cetera. And so at that point, I'm going to need, trusts and lawyers and this, that, and the other to step in. And then, the trust lawyer, the fiduciary, and the trustee, et cetera, are going to have particular one key each or whatever it is, right? So, listen, I know that I have a couple mods on here. If you see anyone asking about any other shitcoin, you have my permission to ban them and block them from YouTube. Okay? If I can't catch them, I would love you to catch them. So, there you go. Now, that's the way I do it, right? Everyone has their own way of doing it. Yeah, I can mess around with a little bit of Bitcoin here and there if I ever need to on my phone, but it's not anything significant. I also use GBTC, so I have a GBTC position, and of course that's in a broker account. But in terms of actually managing a multi-sig setup, that's the way that I do it. And what made you decide on Casa rather than Unchained for your own multi-sig setup? I don't really know. I went to Casa. It was the first one I looked at, and it looked good. I looked at Unchained, and I don't know. I just felt more comfortable with Casa. Again, not affiliated with them, not making any money by recommending them or saying that that's who I use. There was a point where I was very triggered by the fact that they decided to bring Ethereum into the. Listen, who is this? All right, Fee Shark, you're out of here. I'm wondering if I go onto this thing and click block on YouTube, does it block people forever? Because that would be great. Or is it just for this stream? If someone can clarify. So yeah, I think that multi-sig is the best way to go. It depends on how much Bitcoin you have, if it's worth the cost of carry or not, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that answers that. Matthew said, in your last video, you mentioned reading wealth reports by net worth individuals. In addition to that, B of A and Fidelity. How do I gain access to said reports? Wanting institutional. If you just go on any of the company websites, they will publish those reports, and you can find them looking through the website. It's so amazing that all of these reports are there, and nobody bothers reading them. I'm pretty sure that I was the first one actually paying attention to that B of A study in this Bitcoin space in 2021. Everyone thought it was crazy. So, excuse my throat, guys. So, by the way, tomorrow I think I'm going to release my first ever personal Bitcoin price prediction video for this next cycle. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe for that. And I think that'll be quite interesting. I'm intrigued to hear what you guys think about that. I'm going to put one caveat on it tomorrow, which, you know, it is what it is. Basically, every price prediction video I've ever watched has been wrong. So I'm just adding to being wrong. This is a good point. Could you speak to BlackRock's recent news, I guess, as 85% Bitcoin portfolio is ideal? Right. So this was a internal report that BlackRock did. So everyone was talking about BlackRock doesn't know anything about Bitcoin. In the meantime, they got a bunch of nerds sitting there putting together reports marked clearly for only publication to internal clients only. In I think it was 2021 that it was published, and they basically came to the conclusion that the guys that actually did that report came to the conclusion that the ideal portfolio was like an 85% allocation to Bitcoin, 6% to bonds, and the rest to equities, I think. That's an internal fucking report at BlackRock. Made available to their highest net worth clients only. And then it conveniently leaked. No. It's a real report, right? It's a real report. This was out months ago. It wasn't just out 2 days ago. It was out months ago. You can go through my tweets. You'll see me tweeting about it. It was out months ago. So now you got people going, hey, BlackRock is telling, submitting reports to their internal clients that there is, 85% is the best allocation to Bitcoin. And everyone thinks, what, they're going to crash the price? It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Do you think I should take a HELOC on my rentals for Bitcoin? How can I advise that? How can I even comment on whether you should do that or not? This completely depends on whether you are good at managing risk. It completely depends on whether you are good at managing leverage. It completely depends on so many things that are relevant to you and not relevant to me. So you need to think about that. What did you say to real estate investors when they rebut that, when their rebuttal is that sometimes I wonder whether I'm reading English wrong, and then I have to realize, no, you guys are just typing English wrong. What did you say to a real estate investor when their rebuttal is that Bitcoin is not is not as tangible as real estate? The answer is very simple. Why are you investing in real estate? Are you investing in real estate for the tangibility of it, or are you investing in real estate for the scarcity of it? If you're investing in real estate for the tangibility of it, you're probably better off investing in steel. Steel is definitely way more tangible than real estate. But you don't invest in steel. You invest in real estate. Why? Because it's actually scarce. It's pretty simple. Where do you recommend keeping your keys for multi-sig if you don't have many options on places to store it? For example, having one home and never leave your state. Well, if I was in the U.S. and I was going to, I don't like coffee. I'm not a coffee guy. I'm a tea guy. So apologies to all the coffee drinkers. I'm British. But if I'm going to drink a coffee, it's generally black. For example, so if I was living in the United States of America, I know you guys are not that accustomed to leaving the 20-kilometer square radius of your houses. I think it's like 35% of U.S. population actually has a passport. That's kind of crazy. So anyway, if I was going to do that and I was living in the United States, I would have multiple things. So I would definitely have state jurisdictional arbitrage, right? So if I'm living in one state, I don't want my multi-signature keys all in that one state. I would also definitely have political arbitrage. So if I'm living in a blue state, then I would definitely have a key in a red state. If I was living in a red state, I would definitely have a key in a blue state. If I was living in a swing state, I would definitely have one key in a blue state, one key in a red state, etc., etc. So you want to create that. I would then think about which states are more business friendly and privacy friendly. So you would have a key in Wyoming, for example, right? Or Nevada, for example. So you move it around like that, and that's how I would set up my multi-sig. This is yeah, JP Morgan is out here creating FUD saying that Bitcoin ETF might actually cause price destruction. What they conveniently don't tell you is at what point the price is going to collapse. So it might get to $1 million and then collapse to 500,000. I'll be pretty happy with that from here, right? So we don't know what they're actually saying. And JP Morgan is designed to create FUD around these things. They'll put out one report saying it's this, put out another report saying it's that. So fuck JP Morgan. It's just my personal opinion. But again, what am I saying? If I was them, I'd be doing the exact same thing. I'd be doing the exact same thing. This is an interesting channel name. Ava's Temple of Consciousness, Happy, Healthy Aging. Okay. Do you think the addition of the Chinese opening up to Bitcoin purchasing will have positive effects on pricing? The unique thing about Bitcoin is that no matter who, someone's having fun, no matter who is buying anywhere in the world is going to add demand stress onto the Bitcoin markets. And that's good for Bitcoin, right? In terms of price action anyway. It's good for Bitcoin because if the demand doesn't come from China, then it's going to come from the United States. If it doesn't come from the United States, then it's going to come from Europe. If it doesn't come from Europe, it's going to come from Latin America. Now, actually what's happening is that it's coming from everywhere. It's coming from Latin America, it's coming from North America, it's coming from Europe, it's coming from Asia, it's coming from everywhere. And you don't know who's going to open up the next tap, which is why I keep saying, you're running out of time. Someone said passports are overrated. Michael Saylor said or mentioned on a podcast that Bitcoin is equivalent to owning property around Central Park. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've been saying that for a while too. It's like Bitcoin it's not even like owning property. It's like owning the land. Imagine that every property that was ever going to be built in history was going to be built in the land space of Central Park. Would you want to own a property or would you want to own a piece of that land? Right? And you want to own a piece of that land. If you had $10,000 to invest, would you dollar cost average or buy $10,000 of Bitcoin at one time? Right now, because we're so close to the 200-week moving average, I personally would do a lump sum buy with a view to hold for a minimum of 4 years. British Hollow needs to come to the rave when we hit 100,000. I doubt that's gonna happen. I'll be at the cigar lounge though. Do you recommend safety deposit box for multi-sig? It's definitely a solution that I've used. um, yeah, I'm sure there's scammers in the comment section, so just avoid them. All these scammers have like all these WhatsApp numbers. It's kind of crazy. They're like, "Hey, WhatsApp me," where they got a picture of my British Hollow favicon on there, and they're just trying to tell people to WhatsApp them. Please don't do that. Yeah, I actually have Jason Lowry's book somewhere here. Actually, yeah, it's over there. Um, See, this is a controversial question. Is self custody going to be less common after the ETF? I believe so, yes. I believe so, yes. Which is why I don't really spend too much time focusing on it because, unfortunately, unlike the idealists in the Bitcoin space, I understand the realism around what's going to happen. Most people in the world do not want to be responsible for their own wealth. Now, I can completely understand and agree fully that an asset like Bitcoin that you can actually finally take possession of, you should take possession of. I completely agree you should, but most people won't. Most people won't. So that's just how it is. That's why all I do is focus on helping people understand why they need to get to one Bitcoin. Kevin said, "How was the book?" It's a pretty intense fucking book. I would be lying if I said I read the whole thing. So yeah, most people are probably not going to hold their own Bitcoin after the ETF. Now I got so many people who are telling me, "Oh yeah, I got exposure to." I was just at a cigar lounge the other day. I have exposure to MicroStrategy because of they're holding they're holding Bitcoin. It's like, okay, you know, do you have one Bitcoin like in your possession? No. What do you do? Philip said, "In your opinion, what's the relationship between the housing market and Bitcoin price?" I don't think there is a great relationship just yet. I think it will develop in the sense that those people who are trying to use houses as a store of value will start to realize that Bitcoin is performing better as a store of value than houses. And I think that the housing market will suffer as a result of that. Now, does that mean it's going to go down? No, not necessarily. What it means is that the price of housing will generally go up at a slower rate over the next 20 years as it's done over the last 20 years because I believe the juice has been squeezed out of housing. I don't know how much normal housing can go up by in order to, you know, because otherwise the whole population is going to start is going to start revolting. So you have to control the price of housing. Now the interesting thing is this, right? If you own property in like a major city, the interesting thing is this: what happens as self-driving cars come out? What happens as more and more work can be done in a mobile fashion? What happens when these things come out? Because now I don't have to worry about the commute because I get in my car and my car takes me. I don't stress about the commute anymore, right? I can sleep in the car while the car is going to wherever it needs to go to. Now that's not possible right now, but I'm talking about in 10 years, in 20 years. So what happens to the value of that central city living real estate, which is the most overpriced right now, right? So in essence, it might be better to buy, if you're going to buy a property, to buy a property outside the regions of a city where the cost of living is lower, where people can actually be and get to. What happens, if they realize that, oh wait, we got, you know, I don't know, trains, right? We'll bring trains back and make them more efficient. Um, and so now people can get from one place to in the middle of the city within 20 minutes. Like you can do that in London, right? It's not comfortable, but you can do that in London. I have not read The Mandibles. I plan to sell my rentals and put into Bitcoin after the crazy rules during the pandemic opened my eyes that I don't really own them. The government does. Yeah, absolutely. Frank said, will you be writing options on the Bitcoin ETF to generate income? Yeah, of course. When I see an opportunity, of course I'm going to take it. You give me the opportunity to earn free money, I'm going to take it. Do I think most people should be doing that? No. This is why when I was in the gold space, they hated the shit out of me because all of these guys were out here and trying to tell people, okay, you know, we're not making any money from rich people buying gold. So, because obviously the premium is like 2%, 3% profit margins. So, what we should do is convince the majority of the working class people and poorer that you need gold, and they already have a bias to thinking that somebody's trying to hold them down. So, therefore, we can build this conspiracy around the government taking your shit, and therefore, now I can sell you 1 gram bars where the premium is 50%. Right, so they make more money selling a volume amount of 1 gram bars rather than actually selling, the same amount of gold to a rich person, right? And so I came along and I started talking about how you could use the GLD ETF, no matter how much money you had, and buy gold at a 2 or 3% premium. And of course, they hated the shit out of me because I was attacking their business plan, right? And the same thing's gonna happen in Bitcoin. It's already started happening, but it's already going to happen because as someone is talking positively about ETFs, which are one of the most regulated financial products and most successful financial products in the history of financial products. The ETP products, the exchange traded products, is one of the most successful financial product launches in the history of American financial markets. And when I start talking positively about it, who do you think it affects? Come on, guys, you guys are smart. Who do you think it affects? I'm not saying name them because I'm not going to acknowledge anything, but it certainly affects the people who are leading people to believe that the only way you should do it is buying it through a pro Bitcoin mission orientated exchange. Of course they're gonna be pissed off. Now, there's certainly advantages and disadvantages, right? So as the Huskarl just mentioned, the ETF will cost more than holding because they actually charge a fee. Yes, of course. But the person who understands Bitcoin should not be using the ETF. The only reason you use the ETF is if you want to leverage other financial markets things in order to use it. So if you want lending against Bitcoin, it's going to be infinitely cheaper by using the ETF to lend against than using, physical Bitcoin, right? It's gonna be very, very different utilizing physical Bitcoin compared to the ETF. And that's something that people with money and people with understanding of how to use financial markets will be paying attention to. So, like for example, if I've got physical Bitcoin, I can't use derivative products on physical Bitcoin to generate any amount of liquidity. Whereas, like I was telling people with gold, instead of buying the physical gold at a massive premium, you can use the ETF, and then on top of the benefit of actually buying the ETF at a 2 or 3% premium, the same premium as someone who's rich is buying gold at, you also get the advantage that you can now use calls and puts, derivatives, to generate a cash flow on the gold that you're holding. So the risk profile changes, but depending on how big your portfolio is, if you're taking 25% of your gold position and allocating it to GLD and also making 12 to 20, 24, 26% a year in cash flow income, overall, whatever gold performs, you're going to be better off because you're making that cash flow, right? Now, here's what happened. Gold didn't perform, right? Yeah, it went up, but it didn't really perform. And so gold didn't perform. But the people who had, it's quite funny actually, because even though gold didn't perform, it works to the other side as well. At least the people that were generating the cash flow had the cash flow, right? Whereas if you just held the physical gold, you were much worse off. So the risk of the asset not performing, it was better to use the GLD approach in this specific gold example and utilize the institutional strategies to generate a cash flow on it, right? That was the business that I was in, or one of the businesses that I was in. And then I closed that down in 2020 when I liquidated my entire gold position. So that's going to be possible on Bitcoin, right? It's just like anything else. It's going to be possible on Bitcoin because you will be able to use the ETF and there will be derivatives products on the ETF. And just like in gold, where there's 50-something billion in the GLD fund and there's $1 trillion of outstanding derivatives, that's amazing, right? You got all of that liquidity sitting there. And I don't care what anyone says. The markets like Deribit and et cetera, they're not going to have the scalable amount of liquidity as somebody like calls and puts on an iShares fund is going to have, right? And that's where the money will fly to. So who do you think is going to hate me as soon as this starts up? They're already hating, right? Who do you think is going to have a problem with me talking positively about ETFs? Come on, it's just business, guys. These companies are venture funded, and now you got a guy on YouTube sitting here with a shaky camera doing better than any VC funded marketing department, because that's what they are, right? If they're funding a Bitcoin YouTube show, it's a venture capital funded marketing department for something, right? Their job is to create awareness for Bitcoin, and hopefully people that utilize that awareness will use the company that they're affiliated with in order to buy their Bitcoin, and hopefully they'll make money like that. So who do you think, you think they're not going to hate the fact that a guy sitting here in a fucking bathrobe, smoking cigars, drinking tea, saying whatever the hell he wants to say, is performing better than a venture funded marketing department with 10 people working on it day in, day out? Come on. So it's absolutely normal business practice. And it is what it is. There's a lot more I could say, and I don't really know whether I want to say it, but there's a lot that is quite entertaining in the background, which maybe one day I'll talk about. We'll see. Yeah. Tanita said, I'm a jeweler. The only thing that makes sense to me is to make jewelry with gold. Very few of us can do that. And then who's going to really swap gold? Literally, kind of doesn't make sense. Buy Bitcoin. Yeah, jewelry is the only thing that makes sense. I'll definitely be continuing to buy gold jewelry for sure. Not for myself, obviously. Can you comment on your view, short, mid, and long term on the Bitcoin miners? Yeah, I think short term, like the next couple months, may be tough. And then I think when the earnings reports come out, in February for this last quarter, I think you're going to see a major pop and an outperformance of Bitcoin by the miners. That's what I personally think. And long term, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how they perform. I don't hold any miners for the long term. Long term to me is like 5 years. To me, the mining positions that I have are designed just to accumulate more Bitcoin or to provide me liquidity events, right? If I need a liquidity event, I'll take it from the mining position rather than taking it from Bitcoin. So that's that's the way that I think about it. Bitcoin Man said, also the ETF allows Americans to put Bitcoin into a 401k outside of MSTR and GBTC. Absolutely. Absolutely. James said, will the Bitcoin ETF command a premium over physical Bitcoin due to the ability to generate options income? No, it won't. That's the beautiful thing about it. It will be the value of the ETF, the share price will reflect the NAV minus the fees. Would you still own stocks like miners, Coinbase, MSTR, etc. once the ETF is traded? Yeah, of course. Because some of these times, like the miners could outperform Bitcoin by 3x for a short period of time. So if you understand how that market works, and again, I'm not saying everyone does, and I'm not saying everyone should, but if you understand how that market works, you could enter a position in a short period of time, generate a ton of liquidity, and then pile back into Bitcoin. Watches are just fancy jewelry you buy for yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be buying some more watches, but only ones I love. I told my wife the 3 rules of Bitcoin, and it nearly got a shoe thrown at my head. There you go. Matthew, go over to Fidelity Digital Assets. Do you have a price target for MSTR? No, I don't. I'm very curious to see how that performs. But yeah, guys, listen, look, one of the things I will tell you, and it's part of the game, but I'm predicting right now that there is going to be a ton of hate coming my way in the next, 18 months to 4 years. There's going to be a ton of hate, especially once the ETF starts, because you bet your ass I'm going to be talking positively about the ETF, right? So there's going to be a ton of orchestrated hate coming my way, and I'm going to need you guys to support me in that, right? The difference now is I had hate in 2021 when I was anonymous on Clubhouse, but the difference was I didn't want to show my face, so I couldn't actually say anything. The worst thing that anyone can do right now is try and, form an attack, because I got a YouTube channel now, and I got my whole coin army around me, and the people trying to become whole coiners for their progeny, and I have absolutely zero limits on the words that are going to come out of my mouth and the truth that will come out of my mouth. Now, that's not saying that I'm hiding anything right now, because I'm giving you guys my opinion on everything, but if anyone wants to get spicy, it's going to be fun. I would highly recommend not doing it, especially if you're beholden to, other investors that are looking for a return. So I would, if that's a message for anyone who's thinking about getting spicy. The trolls and whatever, they're gonna be there. $1,000 net worthers don't have any mind space. But I guarantee you, there's gonna be an attack or several positioned. I'm already not allowed on certain Bitcoin podcasts. Can you believe that shit? I'm already, I started my YouTube channel 3 months ago. 3 months, and I'm already not allowed on certain Bitcoin podcasts. Like I said, I just had one. I spent an hour recording it, and then got told, "Yeah, I don't think we're gonna put this out." But that one I understood. And I respect that particular decision, and that was nothing to do with what I'm hinting to here. But yeah, I'm already not allowed on, mandated that he cannot be on your podcast. So, yeah, it's gonna come. The beautiful thing is that every time I put out a video, it's getting more views, and more. The word of what get to one Bitcoin is spreading faster than anything else. So, that's what we're gonna do. But I do want to tell you guys that this is going to come. So when it comes, I hope you're not surprised by it. Yeah, we'll deal with it as it comes. I certainly guarantee it's going to be entertaining. I guarantee it's going to be entertaining. So the smartest thing everyone can do, whoever's thinking about it, and you know who you are if you're watching this, is don't do it. Last time it was different. This time, we're on YouTube and everyone loves entertainment. And the difference is I don't have VCs to please. So, what's a good fee for the ETF that you think will happen when the AUMs hash it out? I think it will settle somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4%. Somewhere like that within the first 3 years. I appreciate all the positive messages coming through here, by the way. Stefan, I'm not going to call them out. Why would I do that? What's the point? I know you, Steve said, I know you had dinner at Michael Saylor's house. It's Saylor with a Y, by the way. Have you asked to interview him on your channel? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. That Eric interview did really well. I was very surprised at that. I didn't really know how to interview anyone, I guess. And people loved it. But again, I'm not trying to do a Bitcoin podcast here. That's not my that's not my thing. Your initial message is with let's talk about this. Your initial message is with great intentions. Your demeaning attitude towards people who are poor sucks. Tread carefully, my friend. Listen, firstly, fuck you. Secondly, I don't have a demeaning attitude towards people who are poor. When you're poor, what you need to be told is you're fucking poor and you better get rich if you want to be relevant. Right? The worst thing you can do for someone when they're poor is to high-five them and make them feel like they're taking part, but they're not actually increasing the amount of power and wealth that they have in their life. That's the single worst thing that you can do for someone who is poor. Someone who is poor needs to be made aware of their current situation, not high-fived by happy hippies to make them feel like they're taking part, when in 10 years, when those happy hippies are going to be off somewhere else and no one's going to care about that person because they didn't spend the time to accumulate one Bitcoin when they had the fucking chance to do it. I don't have a demeaning attitude towards poor people at all, especially not with my background. I come from the third poorest background in London. Do I identify with that? No. Do I want to be... Imagine if I'm living in the third poorest borough in London right now, and someone comes to me and says, hey, but at least you're taking part, like at least you're in London. Someone from Knightsbridge comes to where I was growing up in East Ham, in Newham, and says, hey, but at least we're both in London. I want to smack them in the face, right? I don't want anyone to think that I have a demeaning attitude towards poor people, right? That's not ever my intention. But you need to understand that the worst thing you can do is to make people and just tell them, hey, I'm so glad you're taking part. I'm so glad you're part of this. That is how you keep people subjugated, by making them feel good without actually generating any fucking results. That's what I'm trying to do here. If you are not at 1 Bitcoin, you should have a fire under your ass to get to 1 Bitcoin. Not high-fiving by people who, are already at 1 Bitcoin and above, and then are telling you, hey, you're adding super value to this community because you just spent $2,000 to come to my fucking conference, but you didn't get to 1 Bitcoin. Because the 1 Bitcoin is what's going to change your life, not attending that conference, not high-fiving the happy hippies. No, I don't have a cigar today because my throat is a bit fucked up. And I understand people don't get it, right? I understand that people say, hey, you shouldn't say it like that. I don't give a shit. This is how I say it. Imagine how you're going to feel if you are poor today in 2023. You have the one opportunity of a lifetime, of actually multiple lifetimes, because your progeny will not be able to catch up, right? And you went to a conference, you felt so good, you were taking shots, right? You were buying beers, right? You were living in a hostel just to be a part of it. You went to this conference, you high-fived the happy hippie, right? Everyone told you they loved you. Everyone said the world is so amazing. And then in 10 years' time, you're still fucking poor, living in the same fucking place, wondering why the fuck you didn't stack that Bitcoin instead of going to that conference. How valuable is one over the other? So, Build Pro, I don't mean to pick on you here, but it's just the truth. I don't like it when people say, oh, you have a demeaning attitudes towards poor people. Wake the fuck up. Too many people are gentle. That's the problem. Too many people are too gentle. What about getting into El Salvador, Argentina early versus waiting? Listen, I don't give a shit. Get to 1 Bitcoin. You want to go live in El Salvador and you want to go do that? Cool. That's all fine. I'm not going to do that just yet, right? I'm not going to do that. If you want to do that, absolutely fine. Get to one Bitcoin first. And what most people will fail to realize is that if you are living in America, or you are living in the United Kingdom, or you are living in Europe, or you are living in Australia, or you are living in Canada, or you are living in any of these major economies, and you're not at one Bitcoin, you would be much better off staying in the economy that you're in, because it is the biggest financial capital markets in the world. What the fuck do you think you're going to do? You're going to go down to El Salvador and sell pupusas to try and get to one Bitcoin and high five happy hippies on the side of the road? Stay where you're at in the biggest financial capital markets in the world. Accumulate your one Bitcoin or more. Utilize the assets that you have, right, to get to one Bitcoin. Like if you've got a property portfolio, right? Figure out how to leverage that property portfolio in different ways to get to the amount of Bitcoin that you want. And then, by the way, when I say get to one Bitcoin, I'm talking about everyone up to, millionaire level, right? Millionaire level. If you're at $2+ million, maybe we could talk about adding more than that. But if you're at up to $1 million in net worth, and you haven't got to one Bitcoin yet, right? That's really what I'm talking about. Because I even understand someone who's got $1 million net worth, right? Let's say you got 80% of that in real estate, because that's what it is. You got 80% of that in real estate. How are you going to liquidate? So you got 200,000 liquid, if that. How are you going to allocate $37,000 of it to Bitcoin when you don't know anything about it? It's tough. So when I say get to one Bitcoin, it's not just for people who are like trying to struggle. And so I understand how the financial economics of someone who is worth $1 million works. I'm trying to speak to those people as well, right? And of course, get to as many Bitcoin as possible, but get to that one Bitcoin first. Yeah, flat enough. You're absolutely right. Soon the message will be get to 0.1 Bitcoin, because getting to one Bitcoin will be unattainable. Absolutely right. Daniel, the price prediction video is coming out tomorrow. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Where are we at on subscribers right now? Let's have a look. We're almost at 20K. We're at 19,952. Almost there. Yeah, look here. This is another smart way of thinking about live in Belize, not El Salvador. British common law, English speaking, full property rights, between 0.25 and 1% tax. There you go. Right? You got to be smart about this. Don't just get swept away by the happy hippies. I think people are. Hold on. Where is this? Let me just go back to the other one I wanted to talk about. Nobody has ever priced out a Bitcoin. It's just a matter of how much you can get for the cash that you have available. I'll always sell you 100 Satoshis for $1. Very, very affordable. That's funny. Crypto fever. I think people are mistaking arrogance for confidence. I don't think BH is arrogant. He's confident in what he's talking about and his mission goal for his viewers. Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing I need you to do is change it from crypto fever to Bitcoin fever. Come on, what fever you got around crypto besides being sick at this point? Think about it. I'm talking about crypto fever. Unless you're sick right now and that's why you got a fever. What other fever have you got as a result of crypto? Here we go, another one. Crypto Bulldog. I just convinced my brother to get to one Bitcoin. Amazing job. Now change that fucking name to Bitcoin Bulldog. Sounds better as well. Sylvia said, I think I need a happy hippie t-shirt. I'm cool with anyone who's like, over a Bitcoin being a happy hippie. Come on, we can all touch the grass at the same time as long as we've got more than one Bitcoin. I think we should do that. Everyone should be banned from hugging a tree unless you own one Bitcoin. That'll get the happy hippies moving. You have to get to one Bitcoin before you can hug that damn tree. Cornfred said, I sold my house for Bitcoin at 18 to 20K levels. No regrets. Cool. Yeah, I agree, Wayne. Bitcoin Bulldog sounds much better, too. If you had to give up cigars or watches, which one is gone? Probably watches. Ken said, because of you and your videos, my friend sold his investment condo and bought 2+ Bitcoins. You the man. There you go. Right? It's great. Steve said, what are your odds it's under 40K first week of January? I think it's going to be tough. Santa Claus is about to come around, pump some liquidity into the market. So, yeah, Bitcoin is now ESG friendly. Bitcoin hugs trees, but you can only take part if you own more than one Bitcoin. I don't care what you believe in, whether you believe in animal equality, whether you like those German people who are shouting like dogs, identifying as dogs in the street, whether you want to save the planet, whether you want to burn the planet, whether you want to get into oil, or whether you want to be electric and wind farms and all that shit. I don't give a shit. Get to one Bitcoin. So people always say this to me, right? Susie said, we know what you mean, British Lullaby, about shitcoins, but wasn't Bitcoin the first cryptocurrency ever developed? Sure, but things change. So the market has moved on, and they're now associating all of these other things as the same thing as Bitcoin by using that word to scam people into it. So now that the market has changed all these years later, we have to separate Bitcoin from cryptocurrency in order to keep people from getting scammed. Richard said this absolutely correctly. A $2,000 conference really costs $200,000. Absolutely. And that doesn't even include the cost of actually getting there. Jonathan said, you have no altcoins. No, actually, that's probably a lie, right? Because I probably have an account somewhere with, I don't know, $50, $100 of bullshit when I was first getting into it, playing with stuff. So I don't want to say that, right? But is it relevant? No, I don't even know the login details, wherever the fuck it might be. But it might be somewhere. So I don't want anyone to say, hey, he lied at some point. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Is it Aine? Aine? I don't know. I see only 1 million addresses have one Bitcoin or more. On the greater scheme of things, that's nothing so early. Yeah, but it's kind of crazy, right? Because I tried to think, like, how many addresses do I have that are associated with more than one? Then you go, you could be sitting with like 100 to 200,000 people having more than one Bitcoin. That's kind of insane. Here we go. This is a wise person right here. He's trying to educate you. This is what I love, right? This person is saying that I've lost 4 of 5 Bitcoin, betting on altcoins to outperform Bitcoin over 3 cycles since 2013. Don't do it. Completely agreed. There's so many opportunities on top of Bitcoin. Why would you want to screw around? Like if you really want to speculate, like I have a speculative portfolio, but I'm doing it layer 2, 3, 4 on top of Bitcoin. I'm not doing it, on these altcoins, right? I'm doing it in public markets on top of Bitcoin. CXB said, my girlfriend is now at 2 Bitcoin. She sold her gold and I convinced her. Fantastic. In 2 years, you should be a happy man. Yeah, this is true as well. Some people have half a Bitcoin here, half a Bitcoin there, so it doesn't show up as one Bitcoin. That's absolutely true too. Once you get to one Bitcoin, would you keep adding or diversifying into equities? I'm primarily investing into assets to generate cash flow at the moment. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would probably look at other opportunities to generate cash flow because the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin beats out the need for cash flow in any other asset. So I can't see that making any sense right now for me. But obviously, you got to do what's right for you. If Bitcoin's compounding at 50 to 80% a year, right? What's the point of tying up capital in an asset that is not performing in line with M2 and then giving you a 8% cash flow a year? Doesn't make sense. Yeah, this is an interesting question, right? Wonder how many Bitcoin Grayscale will redistribute to the market once they convert to ETF and the other ETF options get approved. That's where the Hunger Games of the fees come in, right? Because Grayscale can say, okay, cool, everyone's coming in at 0.8, we're gonna come in at 0.5, right? And now BlackRock or whoever else has to compete at 0.45 or whatever. Right. So I'm gonna take 10 more minutes. Do you have any questions that are not Bitcoin related? There's absolutely not Bitcoin related now. I think we had a pretty good Q&A on the Bitcoin side. Anything not Bitcoin related for 10 minutes. This is where you guys normally start getting weird, so. Did you get snow? No. Oh, here we go. It's fast as fuck. How to start on cigars? What's a good one to start? If you can get access to Cubans, you want to start with a Hoyo de Monterrey. If you cannot get started with Cubans, it's a really tough one. Who should you start with? Probably an Ashton Classic. Or like an Oliva Connecticut Reserve, something like that maybe. Yeah, but I'm not that good with non-Cuban cigars. Matthew said, what country are you considering moving to next? I'm not going to say, but my plan for the next 5 years, not even the next 5 years, next 3 years, is going to be to have 3 residences. I don't own any property right now, but I will have 3 residences in different jurisdictions that are all set up the same way. One of the coolest things I ever saw was a friend of mine in London who his family is extremely wealthy in real estate. And they had a house in London, and they had a house in Spain, and they had a house in Florida. And anytime he would, and some people are going to say that's a big waste of money, but it all depends on how much money you have, right? Anytime he would buy anything, his personal assistant would basically buy three of those same things and send them to each house. So if he bought, for example, in his office, he bought new monitors, right, for his office. The same setup would be sent. So he would buy six. Say if he bought two monitors for his London home, they would buy six monitors, send two to Florida, two to Spain, and set that up. Say if he bought a sat stacking bathrobe, they would buy three of them. One would go to Florida, one would go to Spain, one would go to London. Say if he went and bought shirts that he likes, three of the same shirts, etc. Sneakers, three of the same sneakers. Anything, it was like sent from one place, wherever he was buying it, buy three of them, and they'd be sent to all the different houses. What that meant was he could literally get on a plane at any time with his laptop and phone in his hand, land where he needed to be, and plug in immediately and have the same things that he needed all over the place. He had zero reason to carry any luggage whatsoever. That was pretty fucking cool. Martin said, British Hollow, why don't you drink? I'll occasionally have, maybe once a year I'll have a shot of something that my favorite alcohol is probably cognac. And if I'm going to have it, I'm going to have the best, and I'm going to enjoy it fully. The reason why I don't drink, I watched an Andrew Huberman podcast and on alcohol, which I highly recommend, and that just turned me off. I wasn't a big drinker anyway, but that just turned me off. My family's background is Kenya and Uganda in Africa. Are you wearing fuzzy slippers? No, not yet. That's bull market. BGZ said, been on any good dates lately? You guys always want to know about that side of life. And the answer to that is no. What is your favorite city in Europe? That's an interesting question. London is my home. Should I spend a little to travel the world while I'm in my 30s? Are you in your early 30s or are you in your late 30s? If you're in your early 30s, probably not. If you're in your late 30s, depending on what you want to do. Are you a man or a woman, or what's going on here? Where did you get that teacup from? I don't know. Someone got it for me. I have someone who manages this house, so I don't say teacup. Make it look nice. Robert said, don't start on cigars. They are disgusting. Right, block. Goodbye. And that's so beautiful because I can do it because it's my channel. It's amazing. What was your favorite movie as a kid growing up in the 90s? Oh, shit. I don't know. I grew up, I don't know about movies, but I grew up watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a lot. What percentage should a cigar humidor box stay at to preserve cigars? I was gifted one, but it's cheap and doesn't stay around. 75. Oh, no, it's got to be around. It depends. If it's Cubans, 68, 69. If it's non-Cubans, then you can go a little bit up, 70, something like that. Shouldn't be at 75. Significant other, no. Favorite cuisine, that's tough. It's tough. I like Indian food. I like Lebanese food. I don't know. That's tough. How much for your Stories cigar lighter? It must come with a Bitcoin NFT. Jesus. Someone said cigars are disgusting. This is the same people complaining about the way that I talk about poor people. Blocked. I hope you'll consider Florida. Why the hell would I consider America to live in? Why would you do that? Um, yeah, I think it's important to have many passports. I think it's important to have jurisdictional arbitrage. Do I put it above the importance of getting to one Bitcoin? No, but I think it's important. You posted an Italian flag. That's the Irish flag. And that was in support of what's going on in Ireland with their immigration policies. It's not an Italian flag, but I can understand how you got confused. Uh, so I've never actually said, have you been to the Carnegie Club in New York? I was just there this week. I've actually never been to New York, ever. Please say the documentary again about alcohol. If you just search for Andrew Huberman and type in alcohol, it will come up. It's like 3 hours long. Are you a fan of American football? Firstly, it's called rugby. And when we play it in the UK, we don't have pads. Hope that's clear. Have you been back to Kenya or Uganda? No, I haven't, but I will one day. Fiat to Crypto is not my channel. It's not. I don't know who that is, but I think they're doing a great job. And I put a video out. You can go watch it on my YouTube. Where I basically said, take my content, take it, and let's get people. If you can spread it better than I can, take the message, take the messaging, take the content. Why do you think I don't complain when people copy any video ideas or anything like that, right? There's literally channels, big channels, copying video ideas using phrases that I've been the only one that said it to start with. I don't have no problem with that. Do it. Just get the message out there. If I'm the one that gets the hook, and then you can take it and spread the message, take it, spread the message, pretend it's yours. Let's just get the message out there. Do you support plant medicine? Absolutely. But not marijuana. But everything else, the research is undeniable. I would highly recommend everyone read the Johns Hopkins University's psychedelic research. Wayne said, if you have no family when you pass, what causes will you leave your Bitcoin to? I will have family when I pass. Padron 1926. Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the 64s, but 1926, again, Padrons are just masterpieces of cigars. I would not move to Puerto Rico because I'm not American, so there's no need for me to move to Puerto Rico. There's better places that I can live in. Do you use Boveda packs? Yes, they're the best for cigars, maintaining the humidity. Trading Places is also a great movie. I don't have a football team. Well, it's a pretty good guess. I don't have a football team. I just didn't care about any of that. Considering selling any swag? Not really. Mercedes or BMW? Obviously Mercedes. I'm not a car guy, but obviously Mercedes. Bentley or Rolls Royce? Rolls Royce to be driven in, Bentley to drive. But again, I'm not a car guy, so I've owned a Bentley. I've never owned a Rolls Royce. Three rules of Bitcoin swag would sell. Upman Cigars, wake up, bro. Listen, you moron. Upman Cigars are not. I don't think they're worth the money that they're asked for. There's maybe like a couple of limited editions that are worth it, like the 2012, I think it was. But I don't, I don't know about. I don't know where you heard said that, but that's not it. I've got one friend who's a big fan of Upman cigars, but he has an emotional connection because it was the first cigar he smoked, etc., etc. Um, do we count? That's a Bitcoin question, but do we count GBTC shares towards our total Bitcoin holdings? I personally wouldn't, but that's up to you. What's your take on the CBDCs? They're coming. Would you buy a Gulfstream or a Learjet? Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Everyone would naturally go for Gulfstreams, but Learjets are powerful as well. I don't know. I'd probably go for the Gulfstream. Makes me feel better to say I'm flying a Gulfstream. But great planes. If someone wanted to send you something, do you have a PO box? Not yet. May do later, but I'll just be worried that you guys will send me some bullshit. Imagine I'm doing an unboxing. I like Cubans and Davidoff cigars. I'm not a big fan of Davidoffs at all. Bitcoin man said, I love America, born and raised, rarely leave my acreage. Yep, you're basically American. There you go. Highly recommend traveling around the world and seeing what's out there. Matthew said, Lear to fly, Gulf to be flown in. I never even considered it from that perspective. Why would I want to fly my own plane? I'm not a big art guy. I'll just look at a painting and go, what the fuck? I'm not a big art guy at all. Big Handsome said, man, so glad to finally get you on a live chat, boss. You the man British, although I'm a Scottish nationalist. I don't like it, but I love you, brother. So that's good. That's how we work. That's how we work in the UK. Scottish nationalist, aka doesn't get anything done ever. Babino's, I gotta show this. Babino said, which Patek do you recommend as a first time buyer? Firstly, I recommend learning how to spell Patek. It's Patek. Once you do that, you can come on the next live stream and I'll tell you which one. Yeah, life is Callan said thanks for one rule of life, turning arrogance into confidence. Life is basically a journey where you start off extremely arrogant, telling everyone you can do this, that, and the other. And then the purpose of life is to turn that arrogance and prove it to yourself and then turn it into confidence at the end of life or along the way. What's your opinion on Bitcoin Magazine, the management events, and so on? I think everyone who's adding to the Bitcoin space is doing a great job. The more information we can get in the Bitcoin space, the better it is. I think sometimes they lose their way, but I understand because they're going to make money. Favorite tax-free jurisdiction to live in moving forwards? I don't know. I think one of the Caribbean islands, probably. I like Dubai. Like, if I was married and had kids, probably I would spend a lot more time in Dubai than I do. But, yeah. I need water. I need ocean. I like that. Which Bitcoin influencer is your favorite? Michael Saylor. Yeah, warm blue water. Absolutely. Actually considered moving to the Dominican Republic for that. But the ocean, it's nice, but it's not as good as the proper Caribbean oceans like the Bahamas and etc. etc. Yeah, I think the British Caribbean is probably nice. Or U.S. Virgin Islands was nice as well. Belize also has no capital gains taxes. Yep. Do you enjoy shooting guns? So I'll tell you, I had one of the best. Well, no, I can't talk about that. Yes, I do. I almost just broke a promise. Big Handsome said, "Hey brother, I'm the dude whose bank literally told me for my own safety, stopped me from sending cash to Coinbase, like 1 to 2 years ago. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy." Just got a text from a friend saying, "Randomly saw your live towards the end. You really like that bathrobe." See, it's getting out, guys. We're getting out there. When you had dinner at Sailor's house, did he have a professional chef preparing the meal? Of course. Do you think Michael Saylor was cooking for me? Not only a professional chef, a full team to manage the house. It was amazing. Where do you recommend buying watches? Seems impossible to buy a Rolex. So, um, I buy the two watch brands I love, which is Patek Philippe and FP Journe. I buy from the FP Journe boutique in Miami if I'm going to buy it, um, or I'll buy from the Patek Philippe boutique in London. That's basically where I go. All right. Yeah, we got some good questions. Good random question. It wasn't as weird as I thought it was gonna be this time around. I'm sure there's always next time. Yeah, yeah, pretty good. I'm just seeing if I missed anything that is entertaining to us. A lot of people want to know about like relationship stuff for some reason, and it's like guys, it's like dudes asking me these questions, which is kind of interesting. But it is what it is. Much love from Tokyo. Just orange pilled my Japanese dentist friend. Amazing. Austin, you're absolutely right. I did not answer your four-handed happy ending massage question, but I don't remember what it was. So, where's the price of Bitcoin? Let's have a look. 37,290. Okay. Um, would you buy would you buy the underlying stock on MicroStrategy or an option? Depends what play I wanted to do and how long. At this point, I'd personally probably buy the option. Can you guys hear that siren? The worst sirens here. No matter how high you are, you can hear that shit. Uh, right. I think that's it. I think that's where we at. I keep getting unsubscribed to this channel. People check your subscriptions. I don't know why that would be. I apologize. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, make sure you're subscribed. Santiago, stop being mean. You a fan of Elon Musk? Yep. Yeah, basically, I think that's all the questions answered. You know, and the most fascinating thing about this whole entire journey in Bitcoin is that despite any question that I've answered, despite the questions I haven't answered, despite the hate, despite the love, despite whether you go to a conference or not, despite whether anyone else gets to 1 Bitcoin or not, and you stay a happy hippie or actually elevate yourself in the status of this new economy that's being created by owning 1 Bitcoin as a minimum. Despite all of that, despite the fact that the ETF is coming, despite the fact that no matter how ready you think you are, you're not ready, despite all of that, there are still only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy. I love you guys. I'll speak to you on Twitter or on the next stream.